Hey, what's up, everybody? Hope you're having a good day out there. Dane here from Moving to Canada. I'm going live today. Bit of a delayed reaction here, but I'm going live to bring you the results from the express entry draws that took place last week. We had a big draw for CEC candidates take place really late on Friday evening, so we figured we'd just hold off for the weekend and bring you guys some live video coverage today on Monday. So if you are watching this, drop into the comments and let me know where you're tuning in from. I'm going to be uploading this to YouTube, so if you're watching later on YouTube, feel free to skip ahead a little bit. We're just going to check in with our audience members, wait for some people to hop into the stream, and then we'll get into the draw results from last week. We'll also be briefly covering Canada's new immigration programs for people who weren't paying attention to Canadian immigration news last week. We had Canada launch 3 or 6, depending on how you look at it, new immigration programs for people who are in Canada, who are currently employed in Canada. So overall, it's been a really big week for in Canada immigration applicants. So I do see we've got about 60 people in here. Again, if you guys are watching, let me know where you're tuning in from, and if you've got any questions about the immigration results from today. If you have any questions about the programs that we'll be going over, drop them into the comments and we'll go through a few comments here at the end of the stream. So I see Fatakemi's tuning in from Nigeria. Hyatt's asking about FSW candidates. So we'll talk about FSW a little bit in today's video. I see Divine tuning in from Ghana. Jamie from the United Kingdom, Hyatt from Mexico. John from North Vancouver, my old roommates from North Vancouver. I've been there a few times. It is a lovely little community. So let's jump into the draw results for today. I'll just pull up the coverage on the Moving to Canada website. If you want to read this coverage for yourself, I've linked to it from the description here in the video. So there were 2 draws last week. I'll start with the bigger one first. So this took place on Friday, April 16th. It was our massive draw for the week. A total of 6,000 candidates were invited. As you can see here, it was restricted to candidates in the Canadian experience class. That's not surprising. It's what we've been seeing for the past, since the start of 2021. And Canadian experience class is a segment of express entry that requires you have at least 1 year of full-time skilled Canadian work experience gained within the 3 years prior to applying. So it was Canadian candidates or Canadian experience candidates who were considered in this draw. We saw the minimum CRS score cutoff continue to drop for CEC candidates. It dropped by another 15 points down to 417. And that's close to a record low, aside from the fact that we have this draw that took place in February that's really skewing all of our perceptions. So if you remember back in February, more than 27,000 CEC candidates were invited, every CEC candidate in the pool. The lowest CRS score was 75. So we're getting these sort of record numbers, 6,000 candidates. It's the second biggest draw in express entry history. And 417 points. It's very close to a record low. We had 413 points once happened for an all-program draw. I think that was 4 years ago, almost exactly. So if you don't compare it to that draw in February, these are like record-shattering numbers. Just in perspective, it just seems like, Canada's really prioritizing these people in Canada. And more on that in a moment. But I did want to briefly cover the other draw that took place last week. And as you can see, we've got a ton of coverage on our site. We talk about the prioritization of in Canada candidates as Canada enters the third wave of COVID. But I'm just going to pull open the most recent draw results. So you'll see there was also a draw last Wednesday, April 14th. It was a small draw, 266 invitations issued, and the CRS score cutoff was 753, which is due to the fact that it was a draw for provincial nominees only. When we see the PNP specific draws, they are much higher because all the provincial nominees get a 600-point boost added to their score. So those are the two draws from last week. Again, it totals more than 6,000 invitations to apply issued in a single week. And the big news story that we have been reporting on is the prioritization of in-Canada candidates. And you'll see this is reported in that link in the description if you want to hop in there and read it for yourself. But essentially, Canada, since the start of 2021, has only been doing express entry draws for PNP candidates and those with Canadian work experience, those in the Canadian experience class. While we can't, draw this conclusion for sure, like the government hasn't stated this for sure, but we do believe that this is related to the ongoing pandemic, the travel restrictions. It's, very hard for people to get into Canada right now, even if they have been approved for permanent residence. And if they're outside Canada, in most cases, they're not able to travel to Canada to activate that status. Add to that the fact that Canada is trying to welcome record high numbers of new permanent residents this year, and the country has opted to prioritize in Canada candidates, and that goes for express entry and beyond. So for express entry, we've seen the CEC and the PNP specific draws. We saw that massive draw for CEC candidates back in February, and then last week we had another huge piece of news. We cover it briefly here, that the government has recently announced 6 new pathways to permanent residence that will accept more than 90,000 essential workers and graduates who are working in Canada. And we've got a full piece on this. We did a live video on this program last week. So if you want to get really in depth, you can just scroll down our feed and watch that live video or head to our YouTube channel. But these are programs that prioritize essential workers, so people who have been working in healthcare occupations, or, there are, I think, 95 non-healthcare occupations on the list as well for other essential workers. And for students, so people who have recently graduated who are working in Canada. There are a bunch of different streams. There are streams specifically for French speakers without quotas attached to them. So this has been a huge initiative. I'll pop a link to that into the comments section here too, or in the description if you're watching later on YouTube. But if you are working in Canada and you're a temporary resident, I'd suggest familiarizing yourself with this program. It's slated to launch on May 6th, and after the quotas are reached for the 90,000, unless you speak French, it will close. So it's a really great opportunity for those of you who are in Canada. Now, for those of you who aren't in Canada, you might be wondering, when are we going to get back to quote unquote normal? And unfortunately, we don't know the answer to that question. As you'll see here, we provide a bit of context as to where Canada's at with COVID. It's not looking great right now. A lot of provinces are reporting, third wave level cases. Ontario, Canada's most populous province with the city of Toronto, has just brought in really intense new restrictions, a 6-week stay-at-home order, a ton of other restrictions attached to that. There are curfews going on across a lot of Quebec. The province of British Columbia on the west coast has record-setting cases for them throughout the pandemic happening right now. They've imposed what they call a circuit breaker. You'll see links to all those stories right here. So things aren't looking amazing. On the optimistic side of things, Canada's vaccination program is speeding up. More than 20% of the population has now received a first dose, and I was just looking at that website, and it's actually close to 25% now. So things are really moving there. That's positive news. We're really hoping that with the new restrictions imposed by certain provinces, combined with the speeding up of the vaccination program, that maybe 2 months from now things might look a little bit more normal, and hopefully once the pandemic is under control in Canada, travel restrictions will start to lift, immigration will start to refocus on people who are not all in Canada but also who are outside Canada. So that's the best info that I can give you about when are we going to get back to like FSW candidates being considered. Hopefully, when the pandemic travel restrictions start to loosen, when Canada has things back under control, when a lot of people are vaccinated here, hopefully at that point, we will see FSW candidates once again considered. And that includes FSW candidates, also FST candidates, federal skilled trades candidates as well. So I'm going to close this for the time being and get back just to my own video feed, see if we can answer a few questions. So Harry, I saw, asked, do you think the new program for the student stream will fill in just a few days? So Harry, we expect that the new stream for students will be very popular. There is a quota of only 40,000 for international graduates to be able to apply for that. So we expect it will be popular. One of the requirements is a proof of language proficiency. They haven't released exactly what you have to provide, but we're expecting people will have to provide, language test results. That's what's required for other immigration programs. So if it is the case that you have to provide official language test results, that might be sort of the bottleneck here, in that a lot of people, it's April 19th. You have to schedule the language test. You have to sit the language test, and then they have to give you your results. It would be tight to get those results by May 6th. And there's going to be a lot of people trying to get them right now. So that'll probably, delay the quota being hit. That being said, we can't promise that. It's going to be really popular. So if you're eligible for it, we advise you to, get on top of it as quickly as possible, prepare the documents needed as quickly as possible, and apply as quickly as possible to give yourself the best possible chance of getting in under that quota. Alternately, if you speak French, you're exempt from the quotas, and it's not a super high level of French. It's CLB 5. So even if you've been kind of learning a little bit of French while you're here, it might be time to brush up on those skills, sit a language test in a few months, and then you can apply as long as you get in before they close, and they're slated to close, I believe it's November 5th. But check the article just to be sure. Let's see if we've got any other questions here. Yeah, so Divine was asking how long is it going to take to start issuing visas to applicants. So it depends on where you're applying from. A lot of in Canada immigration is moving right now, so people are receiving decisions on their applications. If you're outside Canada and you're applying for like permanent residence, for example, we've seen there's been sort of a pause, not officially, but we haven't seen approvals being issued in the last few months for people who are not in the country who are applying for permanent residence through express entry. So again, what I discussed before about waiting for the pandemic to recede a little bit in Canada for us to get out of the crisis phase and for travel restrictions to lift, hopefully that will affect the resumption of processing for out of Canada express entry applicants as well. And Trish has a Canadian passport, and Trish's daughters live in Toronto. Great. Tough time to be living in Toronto, though, and hoping that our vaccination rollout improves. The Canada's vaccine rollout isn't terrible. It's not great compared to the US or the UK or Israel, but globally Canada's doing pretty well. Okay. And Divine was asking about work permits. So work permits are still being processed. The Canadian government is still processing work permit applications. Depending on what you're applying for, where you're applying from, when the start date is for your position, there might be some delays, but work permits are still being processed. Great. So I think I'm going to leave it there for today's video. If you have jumped in after we gave the express entry draw results, I'll do a quick recap for you guys. We're here today to share the results of 2 express entry draws from last week. Nothing happened today. These both happened last week, but one late on Friday, which is why we waited till Monday for our video. So we had a draw take place last Wednesday. It was for provincial nominees only. It was a small draw, 266 ITAs, CRS score cutoff of 753. And then we had a big draw take place on Friday night, very late at night. Well, late for us in this time zone. It was for Canadian experience class candidates only. It was 6,000 invitations to apply. And the minimum CRS score cutoff for that drop was 417 points. So it dropped by 15 points from 2 weeks ago. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you want to be one of the first people to find out about the next Express Entry draw, you can just keep following us on Facebook. We always go live when we have more draw results. And thanks for tuning in. We will see you next time.